This is weird. This is really weird. Now, I wasn't planning on posting today, but I have to talk about this. I came across this news article from WSMV4 News, which was posted a few days ago, I believe on the 22nd, giving us an update on an incident that happened 5 years ago. This incident involving this individual, Anthony Warner, who supposedly believes in a lot of quote-unquote conspiracy theories, to the point that he caused this massive explosion in Nashville, also taking himself out in the process. But before we go any further, take a look at this update that just came out of nowhere.
All right, take a look at this photo. It's among the new images that we have obtained of the man who set off a suicide bomb in downtown Nashville 5 years ago. His name was Anthony Warner. Now, we've now obtained this photograph along with several others showing his bizarre behavior long before the bombing. Now, this photo was given to me by a former friend, and it was taken while they were out camping. Now, you can see this device that is holding in his hand. Warner made this thing. You can see it's kind of piecemeal together. He told his friends that through the lens on this device, he could see lizard people in the woods. It's among the bizarre theories that he believed in. You can read our full investigation into Warner and everything we've now uncovered about him in the comments. And that's your Finley Finds Out.
So yeah, what has come out after all this time is that he had a special device that allowed him to see reptilians in the woods. And then after he told his friends this, not too long after, this is when the explosion would occur. This is an interview with one of his friends.
First, I sat down with a former friend of the bomber who was sharing troubling photos of what she witnessed and documented. In so many ways, the fear of what Anthony Warner would do on Christmas Day 2020 began in the woods of the Montgomery Bell State Park the year before.
That whole trip is when I started questioning everything. I think it started my awakening of Tony Warner.
Pam Perry camped with Warner, who she called Tony. He dated her sister in high school, and they'd reconnected after her sister's death. So when Warner invited her to the trails of the park to camp, she decided to go. She did not expect for Warner to take out materials, some of it seen at the base of this tree, and throw a small amount of it onto the fire pit.
The thing blew up.
And there was more troubling developments on those camping trips. Perry took a photo of the device Warner is carrying. You can see there's a kind of screen on it. And through that screen, Perry says Warner would rant about what he could see. Do you remember what he would rant about?
Well, he was always talking about his reptilians, but he's talking about this woman.
And he thought she was a reptile?
That was her, and he's obsessed with her. In fact, these reptilian people live in the parks.
Did you worry about that he was severely mentally ill and that you may have not been safe with him?
Well, I don't know that I actually thought that he was mentally ill. I thought he was just crazy, insane. And I was weak. I was weak, and he took advantage of that.
And this is just the beginning of our investigation. For the first time, I sit down with the lead investigator on this case for the FBI. Tomorrow night at 5 o'clock, you're going to hear what she uncovered about the reasons that Warner specifically chose 2nd Avenue and why he had convinced himself that he needed to set off that massive explosion.
Then they get into, and again, they've never spoken about this before, the reason why he caused this explosion and wanted to take himself out was to break a reincarnation loop that he was in.
He had lots of writings.
Those writings matched what Warner did with that strange device in the woods.
That device that could see certain entities.
We discovered a lot of written works by him involving reptilians and lizard people and, deep secret underground bases.
And there was more. It turns out there's a reason he chose to end life with an explosion.
Based on a totality of his writings and things, is he talked a lot about breaking the reincarnation loop.
And what was Warner's belief when it came to stopping repeated reincarnations?
You have to have a high energy event. And so I can't think of anything that's more high energy than an explosive device detonating that utilized high explosives.
And so, do you think he never intended to actually hurt anybody?
In fact, it looks like everything he did was to evacuate people before he detonated his device.
Is there anything about this case that troubles you to this day?
Actually, yes.
Laskowski worries about other people deep in the throes of conspiracy theories. To not reframe your words, but you're worried about the next person who's out there that may be at that edge
Yes.
of madness that
Yes.
wants to do something like this, and
Yes.
are you going to get to them in time?
Exactly.
How often do you think about it?
Every day. I'm just traumatized.
While she is still haunted by Warner's impact on her life,
This is my mom's tree.
Perry says there's one day he can't take away from her.
I don't think about him at Christmas anymore. I'm not going to give him any control of me anymore.
So they're trying to make it sound like he had this special device a year prior to this explosion, but who really knows the truth? This kind of really gives off They Live vibes when it comes to those special glasses that allows you to see the truth. The movie also eerily ended with an explosion as well, but they're also trying to lump anybody that talks about reptilians, reptoids, the theory, the quote-unquote theory, as dangerous people that will cause these explosions. But like with anybody that invents something that they don't like, they probably took him out. He probably really did invent a device that allows people to see these things in a true form. They got wind of it, somebody probably called it in, gave a tip in, and they took him out. No different, again, than the movie They Live, when they found out this individual had special glasses that allowed them to see the truth.
You need a Brazilian plastic surgeon.
I've got one that can see.
What is even more interesting is that when 911 calls came in, people or this person said that they are in the building and he heard gunshots prior to the RV giving a warning.
And breaking news alert, Nashville Emergency Communications releasing some of the chilling 911 calls made the morning of the gunshots and then explosion in downtown Nashville. Josh is at the alert desk.
Right, chilling is an accurate description there. I do want to warn you that some of this is disturbing. The dispatch center just releasing these calls minutes ago. There are calls from as early as 5:30 Christmas morning when gunshots were fired in the area of 2nd and Commerce. Then people can hear the warning from that RV, and then that RV explodes. Take a listen.
There have been 3 rounds of gunshots inside the building. First about 7 or 8 minutes ago, and then about 5 minutes ago. But they're in the building.
It's 2nd Avenue North.
They're in the building.
There are also people that have said that the explosion never came from the RV itself, that when media had released original video of it, they saw the explosion coming from the building, and then the RV had exploded. What's also interesting too is that there were noises coming from the RV warning people to get away from the area, having the RV seem like some kind of distraction, taking focus away from the actual explosion location, which would be one of these buildings here that may have had his works and all of his equipment they were getting rid of.
Evacuated now. All buildings in this area must be evacuated now. All buildings in this area must be evacuated now.
So yes, just a very weird time for them to go ahead and release this update 5 years later during a year, 2025, where they have been talking a lot about reptilians. I even made a video on this on my other channel, Minutes of Horror, but I also said that demon face syndrome has now become dragon face syndrome out of nowhere just in the past few months, because apparently people are now seeing the faces of dragons, aka reptoids. I'm going to go ahead and play that section from my previous video on Minutes of Horror. From Idiocracy to They Live, I do want to go ahead and talk about this. So I found something interesting because I've always been interested in the topic of demon face syndrome, because one day in March back in 2024, just right before the April 8th solar eclipse, all these mainstream news agencies had gotten together to remind the public that there was a condition that exists where people will see the faces of demons. Just randomly, out of the blue, and it's like, why? The man they use as an example had this condition supposedly for years. He was studied in 2020. And news and media were silent in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and then all of a sudden, just right before the April 8th solar eclipse, they dropped this news on us. And what I found odd, the faces they used as an example was not the traditional faces one would see when they had demon face syndrome, because if you had demon face syndrome, you would see faces as if they were a Picasso painting. You would see maybe an eye on the forehead, a nose on the chin, and so forth. But the faces they use as an example looked very amphibian. The faces news and media were showing us were very similar to the faces from the music video by Soundgarden, Black Hole Sun, and the people in that music video were clearly reptiles. And let us not forget what happened to the lead singer of Soundgarden, but outside of that, it seemed like demon face syndrome just suddenly went away from the news. They told us about it, and then poof, it was gone. It's like, what was the purpose of telling us? Were certain individuals going to start losing their form, and the only excuse they could give is that there was an outbreak, a pandemic of demon face syndrome, something impacting the brain? Who really knows? But why am I talking about demon face syndrome today? It happened back in 2024. Well, look at these interesting news articles that came out just about 2 to 3 months ago. Like this article right here from Discover Magazine that was published on September 8th. There is a rare disorder where people see other faces as dragons. If this article isn't gaslighting, I don't know what is, but continue to read the article. It says, in 2011, a 52-year-old woman arrived at a psychiatric clinic in the Netherlands with a rare and peculiar disorder. Within minutes of setting eyes on someone, their face would mysteriously morph into that of a dragon. While the woman was able to recognize faces, according to the study, in just minutes, they turned black, grew long pointy ears, and a protruding snout, and displayed a reptoid skin and huge eyes in bright yellow, green, blue, or red. This wasn't an occasional occurrence, it would happen multiple times a day. Testing for seeing dragons, these distressing distortions were a lifelong affliction, one the patient recalled experiencing in childhood. She remained unfazed by the dragons initially. Only in adolescence did it dawn on her that those around her did not see people as dragons as she did. And I just wonder if you remember the movie They Live, which I believe is more of a documentary than fiction, where an individual needed special glasses to see the truth around him, to see these entities around him. I just wonder if certain people have something going on with their brain that allows them to see past the BS.
E ao mesmo tempo, nós não vamos parar por aí. Já estão encomendados. Deixa eu pedir uma pastilha. Já estão encomendados estudos para eliminar. Chega, é muito. Já estão.
Because this news article screams every bit of They Live without the glasses. She had all these tests done, and then when she had an MRI, the MRI scan returned and showed only a few white matter abnormalities. The abnormalities were located near the certain part of the brain, which is associated with cognition and linked to cognitive impairments in schizophrenia. So what they did was they gave her medication, and this medication blocked her brain from seeing people as dragons. It is just such a weird article, and it's like they're telling people, or anybody out there that also can see the faces of reptilians, that come to us, will give you a medication and your brain will then go ahead and block it out because you're just a schizophrenic. Let's also not forget this classic scene in the movie They Live, and if you read the comment section when it comes to the scene, people are saying it aged like fine wine, and it did indeed.
Our projections show that by the year 2025, not only America, but the entire planet will be under the protection and the dominion of this power alliance. The gains have been substantial, both for ourselves and for you, the human power elite.
Humanoids talking to the power elite in a ballroom about 2025, and as of 2025 we've been hearing a lot about a ballroom and aliens. So this movie has clearly aged like fine wine, and a lot of these individuals that we see that are truly in charge, like these tech giants, are anything but human. I mean, literally Peter Thiel's name is an anagram, letter for letter, for the reptile.
I went with this one guy, and he looked like a lizard. I was so scared. He was sitting there, and I turned him. I was like, oh my god! I was like, holy shit, he looks just like a lizard, and I had to go. It was really bad.
So you just left? Wow.
But in any case, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please like, as any engagement does help the channel grow. Once again, thank you so much for your support.